Hi, everyone. This is the first part of what I'm anticipating will be a 4-part series on using Gmail just a little bit more efficiently, hopefully more effectively. We rely so much on email for so much of our communication, whether that's within your teacher teams, within departments, from department chairs to teachers, to communication with families, communication from us down in the office to all of you. There's just such an abundant reliance on email as a primary communication tool that the volume of emails is, well, I guess it's pretty close to overwhelming, I would imagine. And I worry sometimes that one of the byproducts of that reality is that our ability to keep up with and engage with emails effectively has probably decreased, especially when we are prioritizing work with students, interactions, like actual real interpersonal interactions, which I think is the right thing to prioritize. But that doesn't negate the fact that a lot of important stuff comes across email, and it can be overwhelming. And so my goal in putting this series together is to provide some tips and tools, and ultimately, if and when taken all together, a bit of a systems approach to email that I'm hopeful can provide some of you, depending on how much of these tips you would incorporate into your use of email. It could provide some efficiencies that make your interactions with email quicker, less time consuming, more organized, and hopefully less painful. And so I'm going to jump into part one. And in part one of this series, we're going to focus on something that will just create some efficiency, create, I guess, some speed in working through your email. And what you'll see, I'll do quite a bit in really, I think in all 4 parts of these, we'll be spending some time in the settings of your Gmail and getting things set up to be the most efficient in email as you can be. So this part is titled "Don't Touch the Mouse," right? Or the trackpad if you're on a laptop, which frequently I think a lot of us are. But don't touch it. Instead, we're going to rely on keyboard shortcuts to interact with our mail, and we can do everything we need to do through the keyboard shortcuts. Anything that we would need to do with an individual email, we can do without touching the mouse. So I kind of touched in my opening on why an email series. That's one of the outcomes of this. And then another outcome is to try to decrease the amount of time that you are spending in email and increase your efficiency with email. So let's jump into it. I'm going to get out of this presentation and I'm going to jump over to my email. And this is likely what your email looks like, your inbox will look like. And so I'm going to do a few things in settings to start out. The first is this, and all of these are optional. You can watch this and decide, I don't want to do any of this, or you may not watch this at all, which you wouldn't even have heard that, or you can watch this and decide you're going to do parts of it. The first thing that has always been a little bit important to me is the space. When I'm in here, the amount of space that I have, it's just a thing for me. And so the first thing that I'm going to recommend that you try, and you can try it for an hour, a day, a week, maybe it becomes something that you like and you just leave on, is if you go into settings and then you click on see all settings, right up here at the top where it says main menu, my guess is that many of you have original view clicked. If you change this to new view, I'll show you what's going to happen. And the impact is going to be over here on the left-hand side of the screen. I'm going to just save the changes on that. And it looks the same right now, but if I click over here, you'll see that everything is collapsible and everything is right over here. So I have mail, I can go into chat where all the, instead of having a separate window pop up at the bottom, it's a separate tab that you can open up and jump into any of the chats. Or if you have spaces, if you have groups of people that you chat with, like my testing center crew or the instructional coaches, those are separated too. But it just allows for that space to be gained back into the email viewing pane. That may not be a big deal for you. But for me, it's actually a pretty important setting that when Gmail released that and offered it to us, I really appreciate. It's offered to us on this professional Gmail side. On my personal Gmail account, it isn't available yet, so it's a little frustrating because that view annoys me, but that's just me. The next thing that we're going to do is also in settings. We're going to go back into settings and we're going to go into see all settings. Now you'll see right up here at the top, right, that I have this keyboard shortcuts. That may not be there for you, but we're going to make it so that it's there for you. We're going to scroll down in general. We'll scroll down until you get to right here. Keyboard shortcuts. And right now it's clicked off. If you change it to on and then scroll down again and save changes, you're going to get kicked back out to your inbox. But when you come back into settings, right, this keyboard shortcuts link or tab will be here. If it's not, hit refresh and then it should be there. Should be there. I tried this out with somebody and it took a couple of refreshes before that was there. But this is what we're going to focus on today. It's just interacting with your inbox without touching the trackpad or the mouse. And so if you click on keyboard shortcuts, you're going to see that there is a default list of keyboard shortcuts that you can use for a lot of actions. I am just going to highlight a few that I find that I use the most, that are the most helpful, the most useful. And again, this is when you're just in your email, any of these keyboard shortcuts will do what we need them to do. So for example, the first one that I would highlight is the C. If you just press C while in your email, it will open a new email to draft, right? Just pressing C, right? No trackpad, just hands on the keyboard, C, I need to write an email, compose. All right, that's it. That's a quick keyboard shortcut that I use quite a bit. If you are, I'll go back out. I'm just going to show these to you real quick, and then I'll go back out and show you how you use them. All right, newer conversation, older conversation. So, your hands are on the home row, right? J and K. I think of them almost as arrows. So if I go into my inbox and I'm just going to click on this middle email here, right? If I press K, it goes up to the newer email, the next newer. I can keep on going up. K, J goes down, right? J and K. I can toggle between these two, K and J. So I'm not touching my mouse, but I am going between emails and I'm not doing anything to them other than them being present in this reading pane, right? J and K. Okay, those are two very important keyboard shortcuts that I use all of the time. Okay, another, and I'm going to highlight this one because in parts 2 and 3 and ultimately 4, this next keyboard shortcut becomes like the magic behind all of the all of what makes this an email, a system approach, like having a system to approaching your email. And that is S, right? In this case, it's just going to star an email, and we'll just leave it at that. So if I go back to my inbox, right, and if I am, let's say I am on this email, and I don't know what I'm going to do with it later, but I know that I want to star it for some reason. If I just press S, you see that yellow star lit up. And you'll see over here that I can go to just start emails, right? So that's a view you could have in your inbox, but I can hit J, go to the next email. This is something I want to look at. I'm going to star it, right? That's a simple shortcut. Right now, in this use, it may not make much sense, but I'm highlighting that keyboard shortcut because when we put kind of this whole thing together, that starring capability, and especially being able to do it from a keyboard shortcut, is going to become really important. The next, I can't help but think about the old 4-4 on voicemails from way back in the day. But let's say this email from MPC, right? It's an interesting opportunity, but I know that I'm not going to do anything with this. I'm not going to star this. I would never even come back to search for it. So I'm going to get rid of it. If I just press D, that deletes it, right? That email has been deleted. Don't worry, it's in this trash folder, right? You'll see that it's there. Should be there. I don't know how these are organized, but anyway, it's in this trash folder, and you could always search for it if you needed to. Like if I needed to find it for some reason, and I went in and typed MPC, it's going to be there. Okay. The next, I'll start going through these a little bit more rapidly. Okay. The next one, and I'm just going to go back to the keyboard shortcuts so you can see what it looks like here. All right. The next is if you just tap R, that's going to allow you to, from within the email, just reply. That's reply to just the person who sent it to you, or just the person who sent the email to a large group. So if you think, your department chair sends, or your supervisor sends an email to a group of you, if you hit R, it's going to reply just to the person who sent it. Whereas if you pressed A in an email, that would reply to all. Be careful with reply to all. I don't have to explain that one, I'm sure. If you're in an email and you think that somebody else who wasn't included in this may find it worthwhile, if I'm in this ASCD and I think that this is something that somebody might like, and I hit F, it's going to create a forward email. So I can forward this to, whoever I think might find this email useful, might need to be included on the information, whatever the case might be. So that's F. Let's go back to the keyboard shortcuts. The next is E, and this is another one, not unlike S with the star, right? E, where is my E? Sorry about this. Here it is. E is to archive. And again, this doesn't put it in trash, but it takes it out of your inbox. And so if you're done with an email and you want to be able to search for it later, but you don't want it to be in trash, it's going to be kind of living in your Gmail somewhere. Oops. You can just hit E and it archives it. And we can always undo things right away, but you can archive that email. So E for archive. And then, okay, so down here, you can customize these, like you could change the letters. I don't recommend doing that because the defaults are pretty simple. But I did, for this one, add something, and this is more of my kind of like my inability to reach all the time. And my my tendency to use my left index finger as opposed to my right index finger when I'm doing this. But to snooze an email, the default is Y, but I added T so that either of them, if I press either of them, it will have the same effect. And I'm just going to go back into my email and show you what that does. So let's say that this spam, I don't know why I sent this, but this spam email, I want to snooze it. If I hit Y or T, it's going to ask me, when do I want this to pop back up at the top of my inbox? And so if I pick a day and time, I'm going to say today, and what it's about 2:24 right now. So let's just say 2:25. Race against the clock here. PM, save. All right. So now it's essentially been archived, but it will pop back up in my inbox. I'm sure many of you have already used this feature. I'm there. See there, it's snoozed 1 hour ago. It popped back up already, and it indicates that it was a snoozed. So it doesn't come back up as a new email, but it does come back up indicated that it was snoozed. That's a nice feature. I'm highlighting it just so that you know that you can do that without touching the mouse. You can do that by, according to the default, hitting Y, which if that's all you need, Y, but I added the T so I can use either finger to get to that one. And then the last one, and again, this is something that I'll develop a little bit more in part 2, but the last one is to label something. So let's say that I'm going to open this one, and it's something specific to Math Star test scores. So if I hit L, if I just press L, it's going to apply a label to this. And so I'll talk to you about pre-building labels. But in terms of a label for this, this is something that I might label as something for the building admin team to consider. So I just click that, I apply it, and you'll see that the label, right, has been applied to that email. Now, it still stays here. Now, I could archive it. That's fine. But when I come over here, you'll see that my labels are accessible right here. And if I click on the building admin team, that email's right there. So this was just a quick tutorial on ensuring that your Gmail is set up for keyboard shortcuts. I just highlighted 1, 2, 3, 4, about a dozen or so of the keyboard shortcuts that I find the most useful and allow me to get into email. I open that first email and I'm able to move around, navigate my emails. Oh, this is still wanting to draft. Sorry. Let me delete that. Move around in my email, interact with them in the ways that I need to, label them, delete them, archive them, star them if necessary. I can reply to it right here. So if I wanted to reply to it, I could do that right here. I can do anything really that I would need to with an individual email, forward it, reply to all of those things without ever touching the mouse. And, I know we're talking about seconds, saving seconds, but when we think about how often that we are kind of engaged in email, and there are other things we would rather be doing or prioritizing, those seconds are valuable. And so this is, like I said, just part 1 of interacting with email a little bit differently. And the settings that I highlighted today were changing the main menu view from original to new, ensuring that keyboard shortcuts are turned on, that you save that. There's a save button down here when you change those settings. You may have to refresh to get this keyboard shortcuts tab, but once you do, you can review which shortcuts are on there. And I will include a link to a doc that has just the shortcuts that I highlighted that you can keep handy until you really memorize them. And they do become second nature pretty quickly. Hopefully this was a useful tutorial, and I look forward to putting together part 2 for you, which will build on this. So adding on top of shortcuts, keyboard shortcuts, things that you can do to further increase your efficiency with Gmail and decrease the time that you're spending in email. Thank you. Have a good one.